Hello, everyone. Marco Presco here, and I got a message for you about overthinking. You don't overthink because you're weak or indecisive. You overthink because you know what's at stake. You see the depth of the things, the systems at play, the trade offs, the weight of decisions, and that awareness is both a gift and a burden. And this is something that I struggle with, right? You don't want to just exist. You want to maximize your potential. And when you think that way, every move feels critical because whether that's choosing a job or choosing a video idea or choosing a conversation topic, you're choosing a path, you're choosing a version of yourself. It's a trajectory towards something bigger or something smaller. But the problem is, thinking too much is preventing you from becoming what you already know what you can be, right? And so you are fighting this intellect and your instinct. These are the two forces that are inside of you. Your intellect, the overthinker, this is the one that calculates risk, sees multiple paths, and doesn't want to make a misstep. And your instinct, the doer, the part of you that performed at an elite level in sports, that thrives when you just act, that doesn't hesitate in a moment, right? Whenever, and it doesn't have to be sports. Sorry, I use that as an example for me, but that's because that's when I get in the mode. That's when time flies, whether that's playing an instrument or drawing art or making music, whatever that is, right? You have this thing that you just lose track of time, right? And so a lot of times when you overthink, you're relying too much on intellect, right? Because, for me, I'm now that I'm done with football, I'm in a space where the rules aren't as clear, right? In sports, I know exactly how to train, how to prepare, what metrics matter, right? I had a structure that told me if I was progressing or not. And now in the real world, the real world is way more uncertain. There are 1,000 different plays to run that I could be running, but I don't have a coach telling me which one is right. I'm in an open field, and my mind, how I operate is I desperately try to create a game plan before taking a step, right? But the truth is, the best moments never come from overthinking. They come from trusting your instinct, right? And the way forward is not going to come from perfect planning. It'll come from taking shots and adjusting, right? Your intellect should be an assistant, right? Not the main driver. Your overthinking helps you, create possible routes and guides, right? But you have to take one, right? And so when you let your intellect drive you, right? This is why you're stuck in your head, right? Because your brain is going, 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 all these possibilities, right? I don't know if you've seen that movie Inside Out too, but the overthinker, I don't know if that was one of the little things, but the little characters, but you cannot let that drive your life, right? Fun, happiness, enjoyment, fulfillment. These are things that should be doing, right? And so, like, I treat life like just how you practice making music or practice drawing or practice playing sport, right? I know for sports, you train, you execute, and you adapt, right? And so instead of thinking like going into clarity and using the intellect, just train, execute, and adapt, right? If something feels 60 to 70% right, just move in the direction, right? The game, the things, life happens in real time, and you can always adjust on the fly. If you're like me, you can feel the pressure of a once in a lifetime window, right? Because you only have one life, so every decision feels like it'll affect your life, right? There's an urgency in you. There's an urgency in you, right? I know you want to change. I know you want to chase your fulfillment. I know you want to be the best thing, right? You're not blind at time, right? You see how people get stuck in doing things that they hate and living mediocre lives and people whose lives are filled with what ifs, right? And you don't want to be that person, right? You want to be able to shape everything that you want to do, right? You don't want to waste in your time in a career that feels worthless, or you don't want to look back at missed opportunities because you were too cautious or scared. You don't want to fade into being average when you know that you're meant for something bigger, something greater, right? And which is why it leads to overthinking, because you believe every move is critical to the point where you hesitate, because if it's wrong, you feel like you just lost ground on your best possible life, right? But there's no single right move. Every chance you have to make a choice is just a stepping stone to the next version of you, right? You don't need to get it perfect. You just need to keep momentum. Even wrong moves are great because they teach you something critical for the next one, right? Even if I, put my hand on a stove, it's not the fact that I put my hand on a stove and burn myself. I know not to do it again. And every time I see a stove, I know not to touch it, right? That's going to help me, right? I might lose $1,000 on this trade, right? I lose $1,000 on this investment, right? But I won't ever make that investment again. I might invest into the next big thing, and that's the thing that's going to make me rich, right? And so you like just thinking about football, right? A football team doesn't want to score immediately, right? Sometimes you just need to move forward down the field and trust that the better plays will open up for you, right? And every move that you have will give you a new angle, a new opportunity, or new information. And that's what you have to take away from every decision, every action that you make, right? Because right now, like when you overthink, you're planning, you're trying to figure out what's the best play, right? Not just instead of just going down the field and adapting to the defense, getting the flow of the game, right? You can. For me, I could play a football game. I could out coach and out scheme all I want, but when you're actually playing on that football field, a lot of shit happens that you don't expect, right? You just have to, adapt on the fly, and that's what makes the most successful teams is they know how to adapt, right? And so, if some people feel like they're too aware of the matrix to move blindly, right? You study the systems, you studied all the pitfalls, you study all the ways people fail, you study the ways people get controlled of, right? Which is kind of dumb. It's not dumb, but the awareness, having all this awareness of everything going on makes you hesitate because nothing feels right, right? So like, let's just say you don't know what job to have because you're looking at all the cons of all these jobs, right? You don't want to be tricked into having the wrong job, or you don't want to be tricked to pursuing the wrong thing. You don't want to chase a path that's a dead end. You know enough just to be skeptical of everything, but not enough to feel confident in anything, right? And so awareness is a gift, but it's a curse if it ever keeps you from committing, right? You don't need to find one perfect path. You just need to pick the most interesting thing to you and run, right? And it either works or it leads you to something else. And hopefully that other thing is something better, right? And so shifting from analysis mode to experimental mode is the key to figuring out what you want to do and approaching your dream life and how to stop overthinking, right? If instead of needing full certainty, how about you give yourself a 1 week sprint? If you think YouTube's that thing, do it for a week. If you think music's that thing, do it for a week. If you draw, do it for a week. After that week, if you want to keep doing it, then keep doing it. If you don't, pivot, right? But you're either going to run out of things to do and then figure out you have to stick with one thing, or you're going to find the thing that you actually like to do and you keep running with it, right? I can try out 100 jobs, right? I can work at Target, I can work at Subway, I can be a police officer, I can be a firefighter, right? There's going to be something that I like. 99% of the chance there's going to be something that I like. Or I'm going to have so many experiences that I'm going to choose the best thing out of the things that I've previously done, right? By overthinking, you're playing the edge of your own evolution, right? I'm currently in a transition phase where I'm about to finish school, right? And so I'm finishing playing sports and doing academics and classes and I'm about to go get a job, right? I know the job isn't the final step for me, right? I know that there's something more for me, right? I have a vision of being just another regular guy who, has kids, gets the house, retires, dies, right? I know my life is more than that, right? But every day I'm stepping into a new version of myself, right? And it I can't slow down and analyze every detail, right? I just have to go, right? I can't be perfect, right? The person that I want to be has trust and confidence in myself. I'm not an overthinker. He moves, he adjusts, he trusts himself in the process, or her if the ladies are listening, right? You don't need to have everything figured out. You're never going to have everything figured out, right? But you figure it out as you move. You figure it out as you live. You're not overthinking. You're just scared of who you really are. Overthinking is emotional self-torture, right? You're drowning in your own mind and you don't even know it, right? And it's just like overthinking is just a bad habit, right? It's a symptom. It's a sign that you're avoiding something deeper. Like, why do you always second guess yourself? Why do your thoughts feel like your worst enemy? Why does it feel impossible just to shut off your brain and move forward, right? Last couple of things I want to say is overthinking is just a side effect of not trusting yourself, right? Overthinking isn't about a specific decision. It's about the fear of making the wrong one. You overthink because you don't trust in your own judgment. You're afraid that choosing wrong, something bad will happen to you. Or you think that more time, more information, but what we really need is confidence. Like if you hesitate to speak up in a group, why? Is that because it's most likely because you fear being wrong or being judged or misunderstood, right? Or overthinking is how you avoid blame. If you wait long enough, maybe you won't have to make the choice at all. Or that way, if things go wrong, you say, see, that's why I didn't decide. But all that does is leave you powerless, right? If as a kid, if you were punished for mistakes as a kid, that, you learn that being wrong is dangerous. If people mocked you for when you spoke up, you learn that silence is safer. If you were constantly second guessed as a kid, you learn to do it yourself before anybody else could, right? So like you overthink most of the time because at some point you learn that your instincts couldn't be trusted, right? And overthinking feels safe but even though it might feel safe, it's actually robbing you of everything, right? It actually destroys your confidence, right? Every time you hesitate, you reinforce the idea that you don't trust yourself. The longer you think, the worse you feel. If if you second guess yourself in a social situation, eventually you stop speaking up, and it prevents you from experiencing life. While you're thinking, somebody else is living, right? And if you're too busy analyzing something to if you should have fun or not or go down this path, then sometimes you forget to actually do it. Sometimes like, should I play the game or should I go out? Or and by the time you figure that out, then you already wasted time and you could have been doing better things, but you're in your head, right? I remember there was a time where I wanted to send a text to this girl, and it took me about 30 minutes. And at the end of the day, it didn't matter because she either liked the text or she didn't, and I was either gonna continue talking to her or I wasn't. And I didn't even send the text, and that's something that I regret to like this for the rest of my life because I'm overthinking. What am I doing? Just in the text. And so I guess I want to conclude with overthinking isn't about stopping your thoughts. It's about learning to trust yourself again, right? Trust your first instinct. Your first thought is often the right one, and your brain just talks you out of it. If, give yourself 3 seconds to act before doubt creeps in. If you want to say something, say it. If you want to make a move, do it. If you want to ask for something, ask. No decision is perfect, but any decision is better than none. And success comes from making mistakes. Nobody is perfect. Adjusting and improvement after making those mistakes is what makes people great. Is makes people go forward, right? And so you have to start trusting yourself. Every time you trust yourself, that's a small win, right? Pick one thing to stop overthinking today. And the more you act without fear, the more confident you become, right? Overthinking isn't keeping you safe, it's keeping you stuck. And if you don't take control of your thoughts, they'll take control of you. So what would your life look like if you stopped hesitating, right? Because I made the conscious effort and realized that I overthink too much. And I'm making constant efforts to prevent myself from overthinking. And this is something that I've been working on myself. I hope this video is helpful for anybody who overthinks, and thank you for listening.